All right, Unit 2, Learning Target 6. Identify and assign unknowns in a context, which means story problem, to independent and dependent variables. So we've already talked about independent and dependent variables. If you need to, go back to, I believe that was Learning Target 2 or 3, and review those definitions. Independent is just that. It's independent. It stands alone. Nothing affects that independent variable. Time is one that is used very often because nothing affects time. Time moves on whatever we're doing, all right? Dependent then depends on the time. Your profit depends on how many something you sell, okay? And I just kind of gave away our first problem, our first example here. But we're going to go through some real-world problems, and then you guys are actually going to come up with a real-world context or a real-world situation, and we're going to do some more work on this in class. Should be a quick something. All right, so our first example is Stacy. Stacy's selling bracelets to help support her favorite cause. She buys a box of bracelets for $15. Okay, so she spends that money, buys the box of bracelets. She sells the bracelets for $2 each. Okay, so if we're thinking about this situation, I'm thinking, okay, she loses money in the beginning, and then she's making money back for each bracelet that she sells. We don't know how many bracelets that she bought, but we don't really need that right now. What I want to know is, what are our variables here? What's changing? What's independent? What's dependent? Take a second, make a guess. All right, take a second, make a guess. And now let's talk about it. All right, well, okay, so she's selling bracelets. Okay, she's selling bracelets, so I'm thinking something to do with bracelets. And she's also making money, all right? She's raising money for this cause. So I'm thinking money and bracelets have something to do with it. Now, I know time is one that always works, but we're really not measuring time here. What's happening what is she doing, okay? I'm thinking she's selling bracelets. So for each bracelet she sells, she's making money. So the money depends on the number of bracelets she sells. So our independent variable here is going to be the number of bracelets sold. Our dependent variable is going to be either money or profit. Money gained or profit. I like profit better, I think, because money is kind of vague. Usually want to be fairly specific on these X and Y axes. So let's move on to another example. Example B, a minivan is 220 miles from its destination, Flint. So there's this town, Flint. Minivan is 220 miles from it. I like to get a visual of what we're doing right away. It's traveling towards Flint at 72 miles per hour. Okay, so we're away from Flint. We're traveling towards Flint at 72 miles per hour. What is our variable? What are our variables here? Take a second, guess. What are we doing? Well, what's really fun about this one is that you can just look right here. We have it, okay? Miles per hour. If you ever have something like that where it says per, those are your two variables. Our independent variable, now let's think, which one is independent? The miles, the distance we're traveling, or the hours? Which one doesn't depend on the other? Well, I have already said that time is a almost always independent variable. So our independent variable here is going to be the time that this minivan is traveling. And then in parentheses, I like to put the details. The time in hours, okay? So we're looking at time in hours. That's going to go on regardless of what this minivan is doing. What it's doing, though, is that time is affecting how close it is to Flint. So it's a distance in miles. Those would be our variables. Let's look at another one. Example C. Devin is going to the carnival and she wants to ride rides. She has a total of $20 and she wants to ride the Ferris wheel and the zip line. She doesn't care about any other rides. The Ferris wheel costs $2 and the zip line costs $4, okay? Now, notice here I didn't put independent and dependent variable because this is going to be an equation written in standard form where one doesn't really depend on the other. We can have a lot of different situations. Take a second, guess what are our variables here? What are we looking at? Now, some of you might have guessed money is involved. And money is involved, but it's not necessarily a variable here. It doesn't change. The definition of variable is it varies. In the word variable, it varies from different numbers, okay? Our money in this situation doesn't vary. We have $20. It costs $2 to ride the Ferris wheel. It costs $4 to ride the zip line, okay? Those things are constant, okay? And I'm kind of alluding to some things right now. What could change? Well, it could change that she rides just the Ferris wheel a lot of times and then only rides the zip line once, or she could ride the Ferris wheel once and then ride the zip line a bunch of times. She could ride them somewhat equally. She'd ride each a couple times. So our variables here is how many times she's riding the Ferris wheel. Okay, so our constant is that, or well, we're not going to worry about the money or the equation yet. We'll worry about that in the learning target to come. But our variables are the number of rides on the Ferris wheel, and then our variable 2 is the number of rides on the zip line. And that can go either way. This one could go there, and this one could go here. Okay? It doesn't matter which one's x, which one's y. Okay? You'll just see when we make our equations for those that one has to be one and one has to be the other. Doesn't matter which is which, but one has to be one and one has to be the other. All right, so before class, write the real world context of 2 unknown variables. Okay, for this example, please make sure there's an independent and dependent variable. We're going to focus just on those. If you want to do a little bit more, maybe write another one and write one that doesn't have independent and dependent, write one in standard form, and we'll see if we can get some of those in our roundabout as well, because I think that would be a nice push. So yeah, overachievers, go do that as well. And we will talk about those